All right, dear friends, I'm glad to see you on Feygin Live. It is Sunday, 1st of May, 10 p.m., 2 minutes past 10 in Kiev and Moscow. Day 67, a new cast with Olexiy Arestovych. Glad to see you. Likewise. All right, as usual, we have 160,000 watching us live. And I know we've been pestering you about that. Please leave links to this cast in your social media and other groups online. Subscribe to this channel, to Feygin Live and to Alexei's channel. We're about 1.2 million people subscribed. If you're watching that in English, subscribe to the Privateer station. Do not forget to click the bell and leave a like. That helps YouTube to promote the video. Speaking of yesterday, Olexiy, have you seen that recent news with Putin and the media? I think there was a splash after our yesterday's cast. So what is happening? What happened in the last 24 hours? You know, I'll start with something else. I'm imagining sometimes our cast on the 24th of May, it'll be 3 months of war. What shall we be talking about? What is awaiting us? Because I'm following the hypothesis that they're basically dispirited on the main directions of attack. What comes next? I'm trying to put myself in place of the enemy, and I had an idea that there are some sites that there may be a Zerg rush getting prepared for us. Do you know what it means? No, I have no idea. You're kind of scaring me. This is a pretty famous computer game called StarCraft. There is a nation called Zergs there. They're insects, and since Earthlings and another civilization are too high-tech, these guys just overrun their enemies en masse. What I'm seeing in those people whom they're using to refill their infantry, they're not specialists, not artilleries, not tankers. They're basically picking the guys from under the overpasses, washing them up a little, giving them the dress from 1940s, a helmet from 1950s, and an AK from 1960s. And now attention, they have enough volunteers. So you mean they're volunteers? Yeah, they're volunteers. They have one big advantage, actually two. There are a lot of them, and they're volunteers. The third is, yeah, they owe money for credits. Disadvantages, they cannot do anything. They are not a military professional group. And their only advantage is that they're alive, but that's not for long. Out of those thousands that came recently, there are only about 30% left. Most are killed, a little bit fled. But we're monitoring the situation. Looks like they're assembling a group of about 10,000 people. And they heroically will advance. The question is where? That might resemble some of the heroic of Chinese volunteers in the Korean War when they stopped American army in waves. The only two big differences is 2 zeros at the end. So if you minus those 2 zeros, we'll have about 10,000 that they're collecting now. So I'm thinking, are they mentally insane in Kremlin? There are some people like that. They're throwing these people at us. We've grinded a bunch of elite Russian divisions already. What do these volunteers, what can they do? We have artillery, we have other means to do that. They'll add another 10,000 to the mortality of that event. We were hoping, and we communicated that to them in March, that this operation, this offensive, would not really give you anything, but it will just add to the mortality and the death toll of this event. So now they've spent everything who knew how to do things. Now they're getting ready to spend these volunteers. Okay, we'll grind these out. What else? What next? Do you have any ideas? What else can happen? I have a couple ideas. Thing is, if they stop right now and they don't waste even these Zerg volunteers, the time will not really stop in Russia. They'll have to keep explaining something in the press. It might have worked for a month, maybe for 2. But after the 9th of May, which is about 8 days away from us, this will not work. And when you'll need to say something that we took a pause or we're regrouping or something, but if you're throwing them, you can keep talking that the war is going, we're fighting, please hang on for a little longer. Because if you stop fighting, what's then? All right, so what do you think they'll do when we finish with these and we'll start advancing? I don't know. I have popcorn here and here, and I'm really curious. Another thing. Ukrainian Secret Service or Ukrainian counterintelligence service captured a few valuable assets, and they were getting some data from people from the Central Command in the Ukraine of the Russian side. So some of the things they were looking at were some of the plans. They were going to shoot a civil plane over Belarus or Russia and hit it down with anti-aircraft missile manufactured or with Ukraine stamps on it, marks. So they were trying to get in contact with our volunteers, and they were trying to get in better comm with actual Ukrainian troops. And to do that, they were actually giving real data. They were really leaking good data, and they were leaking the data about Chechen Kadyrovtsi guys. So, attention, passenger airplane, Chechens. And we also noticed that when they were getting the data, we also reviewed how they were reporting. So part of their reporting was also they were attempting to fabricate an actual shootout. So they wanted to shoot a video as if they shot our territorial defense, which they were trying to communicate with. Again, our territorial defense, sometimes it's pretty tough to kill, so they were looking to just hire somebody who can scream and lay down in a pool of paint. So, 3 key ingredients of that story. Fractal story of Russian army for quite a few years. First, shoot down the passenger airplane. Second, cheat on the bosses, deceive the command. And the third, take some revenge on the Chechens. This is the story of Russian army in Ukraine in 3 acts. So it looks like they don't really like Chechens. Yeah, seems like. There is something in it. And also, yes, to ask for more money. Yep. That seems like a common blueprint. But let me conclude that listening to that story, it means that nothing really exciting is happening on the fronts. Not on the east, not in Kryvyi Rog, not in Zaporozhye. No, nothing. They tried some tactical attacks, got hit back and retreated. Even those were not too intensive, they were just nominal. Tell me more about Mariupol. We did not want to talk about it yesterday, postponed it to today. Yeah, we can speak about it today because President already announced it. In Mariupol, our representative from Ukraine, David Arhamia, representative of the parliament majority, and Vice President on the humanitarian issues, Irina Vereshchuk. They're controlling the evacuation of our civilians from Azov Steel. Some people saw the videos. You've seen some pictures and videos with small kids and women leaving the facility. There are about 100 people who were evacuated today. I'm quoting the president. There are plans to continue tomorrow. So these are the kids from the underground, right? Yeah, these are the kids from the basements of the factory, of the facility. So we finally broke their stubbornness and explained the consequences of it. We were not naming who was working there, but Irina Vereshchuk, David Arhamia, and a few people who also wish to remain unknown. Of course, President in his office, they put some inhuman efforts to try to provide for that escape route for refugees. They were looking pretty gray, and it was a difficult situation to pull through. Finally, it's working. They're there at the location. They're in Mariupol. They're at the location. And they're helping to continue with the organization. So we're hoping that we'll have a window long enough to evacuate all the civilians. This is to address the question about our powers. How long have they were not doing anything? They were, and we are doing. It just takes time. So now the evacuation is happening, and we hope that it will continue. I do not even want to talk about the other plans. There are some more, but let's not. All right, yeah, let's not touch on the military component of that operation. Hope to God this will happen. Let's speak about good things, funny things for others, and not so funny for the others. Gerasimov. Today, some serious editions in Russia started to mill it and push it out in the public that he is wounded. And the second is that he could not have been wounded because in Ukraine, when they heard that he is visiting Izum, Ukraine was basically shot up all the command outposts in Izum. So there are rumors that maybe Ukraine had some intel, and in Russia they're saying that he might be wounded, that he has a shrapnel in his leg. I actually would prefer to see his leg. I'm not trusting these reports yet. What do you know, and what does Ukrainian power know about that? Or what can you disclose? Okay, in life, I'm rather an optimist and romantic. Professionally, I'm a skeptic. The one who is not skeptical cannot do that kind of work. I have reasons to believe that he was there. He did not have to have been in the Ukraine. So I'm still concerned, and I cannot confirm that he was wounded as well. What do we know for sure? That we have about 200 killed as the result of the attack on the command outposts. Is that from the intercepts? It's a summary of all different inputs. When this information comes from us, I'm not really believing it. It's more like an indicator. And then when we confirm that through the enemy, then yes, it's more believable. So what we have determined, that's over 200 killed, at least 30 top-tier officers, maybe a little more. And we also know that one of the elite Russian special force units really suffered big losses. A lot of killed and wounded. So don't know the exact name of the unit, but they were hit. So they must have been protecting somebody. We don't know if it was Gerasimov. I know how that rumor came out today, where it came from, and how it got into the media, but what is happening now in the media is basically a hype story mixed with rumors and stuff. That's all the information we have, so we can neither confirm more than what we gathered. About 200 killed, 30 top-tier officers. One of the command posts had the top commanding officer killed. Who could that be? Colonel? We don't know. Could be a colonel, could be a general, depending. And we know that one of the really elite special forces detachments suffered grave losses, who usually protect somebody on the VIP level. So when we hear that, we'll let you know. Yeah, we don't have things to hide. We're trying to fight for the truth, remember? So that's the thing. They'll probably show Gerasimov who is walking to Putin to give a report. And all these famous publications will have to eat crow after this.
Она точно знает, что делает, работает системно, имеет полноту информации, и в чем она не нуждается, так это в нездоровых.
So, like one said, that army is a professional group. They know what they do. We do not need to squeeze additional news and additional hype from the military troops. We cannot afford ourselves to do that, so we're trying to be careful with the data that we publish. 430,000 people watching us live, 16 minutes on air. Those people who have joined, almost 230,000. Please subscribe, do not forget that. Mine and Alexei's. And leave your likes. If you're watching that in English, subscribe to the privateer station and leave your like too, please. By the way, have you seen a parody video about us? Yeah, I've seen a lot. The one where it says that there are 8 billion people are watching us. Yeah, I've seen that. Every human on the world has subscribed, but you please register new accounts for unborn children. So yeah. And I've seen another one. There's been 100 and something day of war. We forgot who attacked us. Australia decided to join the fight. And nothing is happening, but Feygin asks for more likes. Yeah, I've seen that too. That's a funny one. All right, let's continue.
Приехала Нэнси Пелоси, да, она спикер Палаты представителей, с ней сопровождающий.
U.S. Speaker of the Chamber of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, visited Ukraine, met with President Zelensky, maybe agreed about something. Now I understand that these visits, after adoption of Lend-Lease program, will continue. Was there anything worth noticing? Well, first, President will have to speak about that. I can comment on the authority. So we'll be about 24 hours behind him on that. Maybe next show, next cast. All right? All right.
Приезжает, свое мнение выскажи, глава оппозиционной немецкой ХДС.
Also, the head of the opposition German party, Christian Democratic Union, has arrived. What is your opinion on that visit? They are in a crisis after what was discovered about Scholz, who was deceiving his partners and his army and his military and his people. So this visit of his opponent, is that an alternative line of communication to Germany or a visit of respect?
Подавать письмо, это было в открытых источниках, где критиковали нынешнее правительство за нежелание давать оружие. Это где-то недельку назад было еще.
The opposition party actually did get in the press in Germany after they criticized the current leaders, current government, that they're refusing to provide necessary armaments for Ukraine. So I think this visit is a follow-up to that they're continuing to push and press their colleagues to release more heavy equipment to Ukraine. So you think Scholz could have smoothed the situation by visiting Ukraine and, yeah, of course, and add more points to his rating? And he doesn't want to. I don't know if he wants to. He just hasn't yet. Do you have any explanation, do you think? I think Germans would know that better. It's a bit difficult to make a judgment call on the Chancellor of Germany. I would want to say that perhaps he is in a very complicated internal political situation, which our ambassador Melnik in Germany has indicated. And he is fighting for Ukrainian interests as a lion there. So he published a brief piece of news there saying, thank you, Germany, for supplying what you already do. We would like to see more. And he also asked German government to pass a similar lend-lease to American, with actual list of 80 Leopards, some Marders, and this was a public statement that he left. And after that, the opposition comes with a visit to try to perhaps create a conversation that is missing for the moment. So I'm thinking at least the German opposition wants to gather more data about the current situation. And second aspect would be that in politics, emotional experience is rather important. Why it is important to have visited the place. I've seen some of the American congressmen who visited Bucha and Borodenka. I've seen them before and after. That emotional experience is super important because it is one of the main arguments when they come back to the country and they give that experience and share their experience with other people. A human is always a super irritant, super transmitter to another person. And you can always play Machiavelli and being independent and emotionless, but when you meet somebody who has been there, or better, when you have been there yourself, these things, they do shake the situation up. So it is important when people come and see and talk in person, because I hope they bring back the real experience to the country and they can convey that emotional experience they've seen here to their colleagues in the party and their opposition in parliament. It is important, it might work. I've said that about that before. That's why professional journalists and professional politicians have extra value when they do visit places of crisis. And that's when they see them, when they are at the location, that's when they start really feeling that crisis, that critical situation. So we understand that Germany will support Ukraine, yes, but this visit might actually help to increase that level. 452,000 live, 23 minutes live. Another important subject. We talked about it once before. That Legion, Freedom of Russia, which was formed, as we understand from the information that we have publicly available, from first prisoners of war who decided to continue fighting on the Ukrainian side against Putin. And I understand there are citizens of Russia, military experts, who went to Ukraine and to join that Legion. And I understand there might be more people coming. I don't know how they'll be joining it, but I suspect there are more people looking to join that force. This is a very touchy subject because a lot of people are writing about it. From what I see, they're trying to get more data. What can you tell? I heard and I understand that they're already in the battle. Well, first of all, we are limiting the data available about them because each of them is risking 200 times more than even me. I understand. And I'm just explaining why that information will be limited. Now we do have a change in that legion. There are more people in it who came willingly from Russia than the ones who came via the prisoner of war route. So about 12 days ago, the amount of people who were passed the background check and were affirmed and joined that legion overtook the amount of prisoners of war initial group. And there are several of them who came from very serious military detachments with years of experience in different fields. They came early, they came almost 2 months ago, and they're now the backbone of that legion, so they had to pass through the month-and-a-half rigorous check. And now about several tens of people are already fighting. They're, of course, masked. They're not fighting on their own insignia. They entered the group with their insignia, but when they went to the battle, performed their battle duties, they're not wearing that new flag of Russia. They're wearing Ukraine insignia, and they look exactly like Ukraine military. And we also have some Ukraine troopers with the Ukraine military. So if need to speak Ukrainian and if need to look Ukrainian, they can provide that additional cover. And that actually, I want to comment here. Can the Russians fight and can they be brave soldiers? Yes, they can. Yes, they're really brave. They're ideological soldiers and very professional. So why the ones who are fighting on the Putin side are not demonstrating these qualities or demonstrating them in a very limited fashion? That's what Putin's regime has done to them. Many of them were good soldiers. The tragedy of Russian people that we talked about is that Putin's regime is breaking the soul of many of them. I'm a professional military. Military honor does not let one to despise or to verbally attack the counterpart. Because I know there are many of them who are professional, who are strong, and who are fighting and ready to give their lives for their country. It's not just words, they're actually making that decision when they go into battle. But now the question is, which side of this conflict has that moral superiority? So these people are making that decision. We are not even asking them to be loyal to Ukraine, to change their citizenship. We basically offer them to, okay, if you want to fight for Russia, you go fight for Russia. Russia without Putin. Russia of Kasparov that was trampled upon the last 20 years. Russia of Feygin, of Makarevich, of Basilashvili. Russia of Leah Hijakova. He names cultural leaders, political and actors and singers. A beautiful country with great culture, with great values and achievements. I would remind that each country should be judged by the better people, by the better representatives, not the worst. So these are the people who do want Russia to be different, who want Russia to get that historic chance, who see that Putin is leading that country into the grave as a nation. You cannot counterimpose yourself against the whole world. You might if you have some really high honorable values doing so, but when you don't, this is a path to nowhere. So these people are fighting for such Russia. They're fighting for Russia that would be able to join international community, who would remember who they were and the achievements it had. And they're fighting to give it a chance to rise from that gloom, pull them up by hairs and straps of their boots from that abyss where they are. Because frankly, if you put the Russian in good conditions, he actually shows himself as one of the better people in the world. Problem is that many of them are in really horrible conditions right now. They've been degraded for the last 20 years at least, and the best of them either left the country or were destroyed or in prison. And the rest, they're just being trampled upon, and people become a mass. They stop being people. They stop being citizens. I'm conveying what I've talked about with them. They're fighting for the Russian people. They want to destroy those leaders who did that to their country, because they do love their country. And they're fighting for their own people. They're fighting the longer game. I asked them, do you understand what destiny you took when you decided to join that legion? Because you're done. Unless we totally win over, you'll be completely done. You either get killed on the battlefield because they're asking to throw them in the hottest spots, or they'll be chasing you your entire life. And you do have families and relatives across the border. And they said, man, Alex, we made our choice. We drew the line. We are Russian soldiers. We are fighting for Russia. Putin is killing it. We made a rather hard moral choice right now because it is not easy to shoot your compatriots. You know, there are a lot of allusions coming here, historical references to Vlasov divisions and such. But we cannot make another choice right now. If I can do anything to stop it with the weapon in my hands, I'll do it. But this is only half the problem for Putin's regime. There is another one that I think I can disclose now. Do you know that the groups affiliated with the Legion of Free Russia that are acting within Russia? And this was basically a second stage that we could foresee, but we cannot manage it. Because these people have relatives, they have friends, and that fire is already starting to spread. Not many people can find a way to cross the border, but some of them are already asking questions if they can do something on the other side. We're not even checking or asking. We don't even see that it's necessary to do that. There are groups like that are rising there. There are some snobs on our side that are saying they're all slaves there. Not so fast. We remember the demonstrations in 36 cities and hundreds of thousands of people protesting and full police, short-term prisons. So we're not interfering with that. We understand they're in common with their friends across the border, and they're sharing the same goal, that Russia will be free. That is that Russia that rose in 91 when there was that committee that tried to overthrow Gorbachev. From 91 to 93, where there were millions of people like whom Arestovych joined, and other historic and cultural leaders. They all saw the chance that Russia could be different. And there was a hope there until the parliament was shut up. They're somewhere there. Not all of them are dead or immigrated or suppressed and hiding somewhere. So all they need is probably a bit of more hope, and that Legion is part of that hope. I think that's an important subject. we'll be returning to that later. Another thing I wanted to bring today, I do not believe in full mobilization, full conscription. I do not believe that that's a real possibility, because if you take everyone from 18 to 55 and just start basically giving weapons to everyone, even to those who are not loyal to the regime, how do you plan to sort them from those who want to fight for Putin? Because imagine that, you give the weapons to people and then all of a sudden many of them have a Legion of Russia chevron on their shoulder. And that's what I heard too, that some people are saying we don't have weapons, but we'll wait for mobilization. I am skeptical about this. I know that he is afraid of his people. He is afraid of Russians. He is eager to suppress them, but he is frankly scared of them. To call for total mobilization, you cannot control the consequences. So I suspect he'll be avoiding that option to as long as he can. What is your call on this? If he runs out of the drunks and the credited volunteers who need to pay their credits, what do you think? I want to say here, my point of view is that mobilization in Russia, the total mobilization of Russia, is the good thing for Ukraine, because that essentially will tick the clock of the last days of this regime. This is probably the best thing that can happen for Ukraine if they do that in Russia. I did not want to say that this way, but since we're an analytical show, they may discover, to their surprise, that there are a lot more people supporting the ideas of religion than they expect to. And the second thing, they also cannot feed such an army. Their logistical chains are weak, so it'll destroy their economy. Even faster than it's being destroyed right now. So if they declare such an event, it basically starts the countdown clock. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, adult males with weapons who are being sent to the front to fight unknown. Remember what happened in 1918 when Tsar's government lost their elite troops in the front, and then they tried to pull that thing with mobilization, and they had thousands of people armed who had a choice to either go and die under the machine guns of Germans, and they took the second option. They dethroned the Tsar. By the way, you'll be surprised, I'm looking at our stats, we have 498,000 people watching us live. I'm sure there are some of Putin's friends watching, and I'm sure they are probably experiencing a nice shock in their bunker. And that's what I was saying, that those people whom they will mobilize will knock on the door of that bunker. I think Kremlin is feeling that thesis as we discuss it. Do you think they'll go for it? Mark, it's hard to predict. It is hard to predict the things that are caused by free will of people. You can calculate mathematics of it, but it's really up to people what will happen. So if they... It'll be up to Putin, maybe Naryshkin, Patrushev, Shoigu, and a few other in his inner circle. It'll be their call. They've lost the war anyway. So total mobilization is not just war, it's also a possible revolution in Russia. It's a rather traditional story. Total mobilization very often ends up in revolution. So, of course, if they're listening to us from the bunker, please mobilize everybody. We're waiting for that. Oh, yay, we got finally 500,000 people watching us live. For a political segment of YouTube, that's an absolute record. I don't know whom to compare us with. Lady Gaga? That was a good cast. Are we still talking tomorrow? Yes, we're doing a daily, just my force major events, such as me traveling to some hot spots, might interrupted for a day or two. So we're looking to grow our numbers, people watching us. Well, if revolution happens in Russia, 1 million people will watch us. If there'll be 1 million people watching us, he'll suicide himself and his dog and his 3 wives. That could be a greatest effect of our show here. All right, do not forget to subscribe to both of our channels. Leave your likes. If you're watching that in English, please subscribe to the privateer stations, share that link, and leave your like. And come tomorrow, bring more friends. We look forward to having 1 million of you here. Olexiy, talk to you tomorrow.